Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this. I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. It's one of the strangest things that I've ever seen in a college basketball season. For the people that weren't paying attention this afternoon, we're watching football instead of a 6-9 Michigan basketball team. Juwan Howard decided that he was not going to coach today. He decided that he was going to let Phil Martelli, his associate head coach, be the guy that coaches today because Michigan was going back to Philadelphia, where Phil Martelli is from, and Phil Martelli's son is an assistant coach on the Penn State staff, which, like, okay, I understand the gesture. I appreciate the gesture. If you want to make it be like an honorary thing where he goes out there and like the first possession, he's on the sideline. Okay, that's cool. That's fun. That's a nice note. It's not something that you do in the middle of the season. This is game 15 of a 31-game season. You're exactly in the middle of the season. You've lost 3 games in a row. The last 2 games you played, a loss at home to a Minnesota team that was picked at the bottom of the Big Ten, a loss at home to McNeese State. You've lost 6 of your last 8, and you've lost 8 of your last 11 coming into this game. And what do? You decide not to coach. You, the guy with the what is it, like a $30 million contract, whatever it is, making $4 or $5 million a year, decide that you're not going to coach. I don't understand it. I've never seen it before. It's baffling to me, and I think it just it summarizes what people at Michigan kind of think about the basketball program, that something like this is just okay in what you do, right? And I get that they're playing in a national title game for football, and I get that it's a football school, and I get that in the Big Ten, football means everything, and I get when you're Michigan, football means everything, right? Awesome, great, totally understand it, especially when you have a basketball team that is struggling the way they're struggling. But to me, if I'm a Michigan fan, like why am I investing money in this program? Why am I going out and buying tickets to games? Why am I paying for parking? Why am I taking my time to go see this team play and spend money on concessions and have to deal with traveling, have to deal with paying for parking and all that? When they clearly are not taking it seriously. Like, your coach is stepping aside to let somebody else coach a game when you just lost 3 games in a row. It makes no sense. And to me, I think it's disrespectful to the fans and to the people that support that program and the people that decide to go play there. Right? Like, how many of these kids decided, you know what, I'm going to commit to Michigan because I want to play in the Palestra for my associate head coach, Phil Martelli? I don't think any of them did. Is that why Olivia Kamwa transferred there? Right? I don't think it is. It doesn't make sense. It brings all of this kind of negative attention to, I mean, you blew a 10-point halftime lead, RC. They blew a 10-point halftime lead, and now all we're talking about is them. This is not something that should be the lead of a Sunday night weekend recap show on the Field of 68. We shouldn't be talking about Michigan at all, but it's the first thing that we're talking about on the show. And to me, that's the decision that I don't understand it, and I don't like it, and I think it's the wrong decision that he made.
Well, RC, if I could just ask you, sort of frame it, because you've been a player in a college basketball program and you've been a coach on the bench in a college basketball program. I mean, is that something that suggests health to you? I mean, a gesture to you? Like, I mean, from your perspective, if somebody ever came to you as an assistant when you were at Wake and said, hey, take over, we're coming back home, like, would that just not weird you out?
I thought it was something where maybe Juwan wasn't feeling well. He just doesn't want to put that out there. I don't know. I haven't spoken with him. Uh, but let's remember, guys, he missed the start of this season for heart surgery and who knows? I mean, to have a surgery like that and then you're coaching in general is that's not the best combination. So let's hope everything is as well with that. And maybe he didn't want to make an announcement to it.
Right.
I think it's more to it than just, hey, your son's on the other sideline, give you a chance to coach with your son. I don't think it's just that simple, but we could be wrong. But I think it could be something where he's just like, hey, maybe I'm not feeling well. Could have had a scare, anything. I don't know. I think we'll get answers from this in due time. But that let's be honest, that doesn't happen. It's uncommon. We've never seen that. But again, Phil has coached several games this year, but it was because of health issues. So let's hope it's not. Let's start with that. But I hope that we get some concrete answers here going forward, because this is a weird thing just to say, hey, you coach the team going forward in the middle of the season like this, just getting in the conference play, just kind of getting everything going. And they're fighting to get, for relevancy this year.
RC, I want to follow up with you, man, and I realize this is a tough question, but Juwan took over for John Beilein and really got out of the gate fast. And the culture was good. And now you look up, 4 or 5 years later, there was an Elite Eight and a Sweet 16, and sort of since then, as you're seeing now, 43-40 in Big Ten play since that Elite Eight run. Missed 16 games because of a suspension or medical issues, 2-14 in one possession games. Is this a case of, maybe you were living off of, and I recognize this is a tough question to sort of frame, but living off of a culture that preceded you, and maybe you haven't done a good enough job of establishing your own?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. They didn't go to the tournament his first year. They went his second and third year. So it wasn't just a carryover of Beilein's culture, and everybody throws that narrative out there. Right, wrong, or indifferent, he's been to the tournament 2 of his 5 years. This is the 5th year. This team isn't very good. They've lost a lot of close games. They don't finish. They don't have a closer. Defensively, they've struggled. But I'm not going to go and say, hey, this is just Beilein. Because if it was all just Beilein, the first year they would have tournament that year. And they didn't. So it was the second and third year when they had their run.
Yeah, to be fair, the first year he didn't make the tournament because there wasn't a tournament. COVID canceled everything that year. But
they weren't very good though. They weren't as good as they were. My point was they weren't as good as they were the second and third year. Like they got better the second and third year. So that's not just because of the Beilein players. Is all I'm saying. I thought, if anything, I think is a big adjustment for guys is blending in the NIL. Everything else is coming because everybody's going through it now with that change. And that's not an excuse for them, but you get one and done players. You have to decide on how you want to build your program. Like even Kentucky went through it. They went with the young guys, then they went to the portal. Now it seems like Cal is going back to that. Duke has kind of stayed with that. And I think Juwan's trying to figure that out. He comes in, hey, I'm an NBA guy. He's getting these one and done guys in. He has to decide, hey, admission issues, couldn't get everybody he wanted to get into the school anyway. So how does that work for him? So I'm not buying all. Listen, it's a disappointing year. Juwan knows that. It's got to be better. No question about it. But I'm not going to sit up here and say like he should be fired or they should be looking for the next coach. I think he knows things need to change. And I expect that some things need to change for the rest of this year. But again, sometimes you get health issues like that. It changes your perspective. Like we don't know where he's at right now. You get a health scare like that. Who's to say Juwan isn't thinking, man, I want to go back to the NBA. It's less stressful. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but I don't want to sit there and say,
Michigan needs to find that out. I mean, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan needs to do a little due diligence there. And by the way,
I think that's fair, right?
Yeah,
you're right.
I'm not blaming anybody in that situation if that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm totally sensitive to what you're saying there, RC, and I get your point, and I understand. Like when you got a heart thing and you feel a little bit off, like you might not want to go out there and coach. But to me, that is a bigger concern when it comes to the long-term viability of Juwan Howard being there. And what I mean is, the coaching business, especially at the college level, is incredibly stressful. You're going to have late nights. You got to watch a lot of film. You're going to be on the road a lot. You got to recruit. You got to be texting these 16 and 17-year-olds, right? You got to be on the phone. You got to be talking to people. You got to be doing this. You got to be doing that. You got to make sure they're going to class. Like it's 25% coaching and 75% CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. And that's just the way that it is when you're the head coach at a university. It's stressful. And if you have a heart issue that does not allow you to do that to the full extent of your abilities, I don't think that it makes sense for you to be in that role. Does that make sense? Like, and I don't want to say that he's not good enough to do it, because I think what we saw the first 2 years, like he can coach, he knows how to run stuff. He spent 6 years on Eric Spoelstra's bench. Like, it's not like this dude forgot everything he learned about
the NBA for 18 years.
Yeah. I mean, he was there for 25 years in the league as a player, as a coach. Like, he knows basketball. But I just think that if you are indifferent enough to be able to just say, I'm going to allow my associate head coach to coach a game because his son is on the other bench, when you just lost 3 in a row, when you still are in a position where you could turn your season around, like, to me, that just doesn't scream the guy that you want running your program. Now, what I'll say is this. What we've seen from Michigan over the years, like, how much do they actually care about the basketball program? If you can't get Caleb Love and Terrence Shannon into the university,
They should care about their program, though.
Yeah.
They have a proud tradition. They should care.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field of 68 content.